Today I'm going to show you how to take apart and fix everything on the Motorola Nexus 6. To start off, go ahead and turn the phone completely off, and then grab your little SIM card removal tool and remove that SIM card from the top of the phone. Just pressing even a paper clip down in that little hole will release the SIM card. Then use the same tool and press through the little hole in the SIM card slot to the back of the phone to remove the back cover from the phone. When you push it through, it leaves a little gap that you can slide like a razor in, or maybe like a playing card, and you can use that to separate the adhesive from the back plate of the phone from the phone body itself. Pretty straightforward. Then just pull off the rest of the phone back. You can push like a little pry tool in between there as well, and then set that off to the side. Try not to damage it because you do need it for later. Remove the little rubber casing off the battery connector, and then you can unplug the battery right here. If your phone is acting up, sometimes unplugging the battery and leaving it unplugged for 30 seconds and then plugging it back in will fix it. So keep that in mind when you're working on your phone. This is for the volume buttons. It's a little ribbon cable. You can undo this latch right here and slip out the ribbon cable. And for the rest of the phone, there is a T4 Torx head screw, 22 of them actually. And they're all around the outside of the phone. Once the screws are all taken out, you can release the front of the phone from the back of the phone. Front of the phone has the motherboard and screen. Back of the phone has the battery and the QI charger. You can grab that little pull tab and the battery will pull away from the phone. Be careful with the QI charger. That little ribbon cable up at the top is in the back of the frame pretty well. So make sure to separate that before you do any heavy pulling. Then you can remove the QI charger from the back of the battery. If your charging port is broken, unfortunately it's not user replaceable on this phone, but you can use a wireless charging pad. I will link those in the video description as well, along with replacement batteries if I can find them. Here's the headphone jack, pretty easy to pop out of the phone. Once again, all parts and tools will be found in the video description below. Here is the magnetic earpiece. I'm going to go ahead and pop that back into place as well. And here are the volume rockers. The screw you left in at the beginning is how you replace those. You just pull that screw out and then the buttons will fall out as well. There's one more screw holding the motherboard in, same size as all the rest of the other ones. And now I'm just removing the yellow tape from the top of the ribbon cable connections. To remove these connections, you just lift up a little tab and then you can slide the ribbon cable out from the slot and lift it off the main board. Same with this other one. Lift up the little locking lever, slip out the ribbon cable and pull it away from the motherboard. Then you can pull the motherboard away from the frame of the screen. Here's the motherboard. Not a whole lot can be replaced on this. The SIM card slot is soldered onto the board. The front-facing camera can be replaced. I will try to find replacement parts and link those in the video description. Getting rid of that yellow tape, unlatching the rear-facing camera. It's a 13 megapixel camera. Going to tuck that back into place as well. Tap it down and then latch it back in. Pretty easy to replace the rear camera as well. So here's the screen. If your screen is broken, like the glass is broken or the LCD is broken, this is the part that you need to buy in order to replace and fix your phone. You might need to transfer over this metal plate to your new screen as well, but this is the part. If the screen you buy does not have those ribbon cables or the front glass or the LCD, you bought the wrong part, and you need to check in the video description below for this part. Doing a glass-only repair is extremely, extremely difficult, and we're not going to cover that in this video. Get the motherboard back into place and get the ribbon cables back in. We're just putting the phone back together again now. Latch it down to protect that ribbon cable and put the tape over the top of it to keep the latch secure. Same thing with this ribbon cable over here. Tuck it in, make sure it's in as far as possible and latch it down. And then get the yellow tape and put it over the top of all of these ribbon cable connections that you've undone. Pretty simple. Get that one screw and the little metal drop bracket back into place at the top of the motherboard. And the motherboard has two little latches as well, so make sure that it's tucked down into that frame. Now with the QI charger, I put this in first before the battery, making sure that the top of the QI is lined up with the little slot that it's in. There's a little pin in that frame that the ribbon cable sits in, and then you line the top of the QI up with the frame, and there's two holes in the QI charger as well that you line up with the back of it just to make sure it's in the perfect spot. If it's not in the perfect spot, you will not be able to charge your phone. So it's super important that it's lined up exactly where it needs to be. Same thing with that little ribbon cable right there. it's going to line up on the motherboard, and I'll show you that after I'm done with these volume rocker cables. So that's where it touches on the main board. So when you're putting your phone back together again, make sure those line up. Press it down all the way. It should click in fairly easily. If you're having problems with it closing, it might be that your motherboard didn't get latched into the back or front screen frame very well. Get that battery clip back in, make sure it's really secure. And then I'm testing my phone to make sure it turns on before I finish putting in those 22 screws and making sure that it charges up and I have everything in the correct spot with the QI charger. Everything's looking good, so I'm going to turn the phone back off again. And then 22 screws. Get all those babies back in there. Get the rubber protectors over your ribbon cables, volume and power, and then your back plate. If it doesn't have enough adhesive to stick down by itself, which it should, unless you've done this a couple times, you can use that double-sided tape that I showed you to put around the edge and then clip it down again. Get that SIM card back in there and you should be good to go. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments.